Fratelli the Rugby Podcast. The Italian Rugby Podcast. Fratelli the Rugby Podcast. The Italian Rugby Podcast. The Italian Rugby Podcast. The Italian Rugby Podcast.
And welcome everyone, benvenuti. Tonight, Tuesday, we are here with another episode of Fratelli the Rugby Podcast. I hope it's your favorite podcast about Italian rugby here around.
Of course.
Mike, ciao, come stai?
Better. Sorry for everyone who expected it yesterday. I had the flu. It's all on me, so hands up, my fault. But yeah, no, better. How you doing? You good?
Yeah, pretty good. I have a week off. We have a week off at school.
Is it half term?
Yeah, kind of. Vacation half term, trimester, second trimester stuff. So pretty, no problem about tomorrow morning. Time to wake up, right? No. So we good.
Got stuff to do.
Yeah. Mike, sadly, we are here to comment huge loss for Italy rugby. So please, guys, let us know what you think about this game, because it's interesting to hear you. And of course, we are live on X and YouTube. You can follow us on those and everywhere else, like also on Instagram, on Facebook if you need. And of course, we have our WhatsApp chat if you want to join that chat with a lot of fun going every day for hours, because the news don't change. Actually, we have more news every day, and today we're gonna split the podcast in two parts. The first one is gonna be about the Six Nation review of Italy-France game in Rome, and then we're gonna talk a little bit chit chat about what's going on at Benetton. Where is going Bortolami?
Speculation.
yeah. So we're gonna do a little bit of that kind of game together. But let's start with the game, Mike. What is the key moment of this game for you? There's been one moment, or there are many moments. It's pretty similar.
No, I think the one defining moment was the last try they scored before the first at the end of the first half, the last try of the first half, where it took us to 35, because we were in the fight the whole time. The last sort of 30, from the last 5 minutes, I would say from 33, last 7 minutes or so, that's where it started to, the blue beast started to grow, and we needed to do something there to try and put them into place. But unfortunately, they were too good, Otto. So for me, it was the last try really was like a key moment in the game, where had that not had happened and we gone in, just shy of 2 tries, we maybe would have had slightly, more confidence going into it. And I'll also, if I can add another key moment, straight after the first half, we gave obviously the penalty straight away, and that seemed to be another one.
Yeah, I agree with you with that try, because we also consider a lot of meters. They start attacking for long multi-phase, but they gain kind of 30-40 meters until the try, actually, and attacking really tight, and then opening the ball. So a lot of power game and ball in hands later. And that really kills us, because is the team for both teams, Mike, for the under-20s and for Italy, actually, what happened with France. 50 points gap, 49 points gap. The other one, pretty similar kind of games.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of fight around the breakdown, where we miss maybe some, I don't know, we were not ruthless in a certain way. Maybe we should have slowed the ball better with less players. But I agree with you. That is the moment where, okay, now it's gonna be hard. And then second half started in the same way.
Yeah. And I also think there's some odd decisions, Otto, and there's one in particular. I think it's actually the one we ended up scoring from the Brex try, but that started off in the 22 with a line out, and we opted to maul. and we put our whole pack into that maul, and they had 3 forwards standing off. As soon as you see that, as soon as you don't see it moving, I know what we were trying to do. We were trying to suck up players, and then obviously I think it was it Nicodera or Kizzy? Someone came in at hard line, but clearly we were trying to do that against less men, right? As soon as we saw that we weren't sucking them in, like, in your opinion, would it have been better to try something different there? I know obviously end result we scored, cool, it doesn't matter, but lesson there.
Man, of course, probably you want to move that ball, do something, even starting pushing and coming on the open side with 3 players put together. Maybe it wasn't, they were not sure of that fight that we were saying before, because Mole, okay, we can try to organize in our attack, but then it's getting worse when you have to fight in those areas, because we had not that much of quick rack, because we scored from one couple of situation. We had the quick crack, that was the try, and then another situation after the break of Trulla that bring us to that knock on in the middle, and then we score another try from set piece. So probably that is the thing. It was hard to create a quick crack for us, and in general to have possession, because we didn't have possession territory in this game, right?
That, like, they were so good. I think, as much as the score line is tough for us, right? We suffered the wrath of the French. But let's be honest, they were good value for the score. They were brilliant. They were everywhere. And like I said, a lot of lessons to be learned, but also I think a lot of lessons that we shouldn't forget, right? So for our English fans, we remember when, 2 years ago, France were on it and they came to Twickenham, and the scoreline they put on England 2 years ago away from home. When France are good, they're just the best in the world. And obviously it worked for them. It just worked for them. So I think, as much as a lot of Italian fans are probably feeling a little bit disappointed, I am Mr. Glass Half Full. I am Mr. Glass Half Full in our chat as well. And when France are good, they're good. There's not many teams in the world that can stop them doing what they want to do. So take everything with a pinch of salt. Obviously, we need to be better. We need to be much, much better. But they do that to a lot of teams.
Absolutely. And what I want to add to this, the approach they had in this game really worked, because they decided many times to go straight with the power game, with all these, the 8 forwards really tight, playing really tight, sometimes even with the centers coming closer and attacking, then waving out the ball. That worked really well. Many times they had like a 5 versus 1, 5 versus 0. They were saying in the shot situation where you can score, and you have a lot, because we try to defend against what we were expecting, that kind of game, but we were really tight. Sometimes we left the 15 meters completely empty, one player coming, but we tried to defend there. But then they were really aggressive in the rack, in the breakdown. They were able to push players out. Was hard for us to be quick in the backing game. DuPont attacking the line, because they were cleaning really well the rack, so he had this chance to attack, and he did it 2-3 times, and it worked for the tries. A couple of tries came from also this gain line run by DuPont. So
yeah, you actually bring a really interesting point. Obviously, I think we probably set up expecting them, with the forward dominant game, to just smash through the forwards, but actually they were quite happy moving the ball around. And I let's be honest, not un-French like. We should have expected that. But what I'll say is, I also noticed, and guys, this is fresh in my memory, I watched the game like 20 minutes ago before we jumped on. In the second half, if you guys watched their approach in the second half, like Otto said, a lot more pick and goes, a lot more multi-phase. They weren't looking to take it as wide, because the forwards knew they were coming off. So they were like, okay, well, let's just take minutes out of the
Yeah,
opponent's
we have
legs.
minutes there, so let's
Yeah.
keep attacking.
Yeah, exactly. So like it was you know, like I said, it was a perfect storm for us in terms of everything that could have gone wrong. Fischetti coming off after 15 minutes against the 7-1 split.
Not the best.
You know, yeah, Monty obviously not being able to start the game, and Jesse unfortunately being pushed in the deep end against one of the best teams in the world. Cut your teeth on there, son. But realistically, we went into that game as a free hit. This is what we said on the preview, Otto, didn't we? It was a free hit for us. I think we wanted the try bonus point.
That
we would have been happy.
Yes, we were saying this before in the chat. Like if we can get a bonus point, hey, great.
Yeah, win.
Also because the pressure wasn't on us this game. The pressure was because France has to prove a point. Because of course the French media are terrible. If we think about how they approach really in a soccer way style, football style, sometimes how they write on the media, really harsh commentaries. So of course you prove everything. You put a 7-1 that even if it's not gonna be a really good day for France, you know what?
It would have been enough. Yeah. I get you.
Push it. You have 7 and they're gonna work more. So some of them they proved the point around that, but hey, we were slow refolding, readapting as in against Scotland, and that actually it's an issue because keep coming after we saw better defensive set by Italy. Think about when we play New Zealand. Think about last year. I know the different coaches, but still the methodology cannot be that completely changing the approach that the head coach wants. So the Quesada approach in defense, in attack worked. If I have to say, Mike, if I have to bring 3 positive stuff from this game, not having a lot of the ball, but at the end we scored 3 tries, 1 against Scotland, 1 against Wales. So 3 tries in 14 minutes. We didn't have less time with the ball of the 3 games. Was this one against France for us? Scrum and line out worked. So I'm happy on those stuff because yes, I need solid foundation for the game, but then the fight, every moment of the fight, yes, I'm worried for that part.
It's funny you say that, right? Because there's one word out of everything you said there that sticks out the most. And for me, it's adapt. We failed to adapt. The best teams adapt, Otto, and unfortunately, we just couldn't. We couldn't adapt to the offloading game. We couldn't adapt to the power game.
And we knew that pressure was coming.
Yeah, I don't think we expected them to try and like have, you know, support runners in the way that they did with the offload, because we were having like that's where they had the most success, and clearly that was the game plan. Like they offloaded 24 times that match, something ridiculous. Obviously you're stat man, so I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but
I have to take the stats.
It was on up to Johnny earlier. Basically it's the most times out of any Six Nations match since records began. So the point is they offloaded with that game plan. That was the game plan, right? And it worked. We need to adapt better. And whether that's a message from the coaches, whether that's the players to have, you know, the IQ to understand and adapt, obviously, you know, something needed to change there. And that's a lesson learned. And I think it's a really good opportunity for the guys, because a lot of teams are probably going to be looking at that and saying, offloads against Italy, interesting. Now we need a plan B. Now we need to understand what we need to do. And we've got 2 weeks to sort it out. So if you were coach, put your coach hat on.
But no, I will put together a lot of work around what is the fight that we have to do, working on the, of course, they know better, but of course, like the key players that gonna push in the rack, like what player of England is gonna do which kind of work, what is gonna try to, when is gonna juggle from what side, really specific work on that, to work better, work less, because that is the point. You have to work less.
Yes, more efficient.
And in an efficient way with pace. You have to think earlier than the opposition, and I hope that we're gonna try to stick on that.
It's funny you said something, right? So obviously, I watched the second time on different commentary, and Brian O'Driscoll said something very similar to you. He said our attack it works. Our attack, like he can see what we're trying to do. He said the difference between our attack and the French attack is that we're running at bodies, they're running at space, and I thought that was like,
And they were running earlier too. Yes, they
yeah,
were already in motion many times. We struggle on that. We
timing.
try a lot of switch plays
Mm.
when the 9 goes on the right side, then fake goes to the other one with a wave of players coming from behind the rack. We try a couple of those situations. They also commit a couple of penalties where we try to attack.
Yeah,
to be said, and but in general, good set piece, because we saw Brexoncello how they can work. That is a classic try we saw many times during the last couple of years against Bristol.
Yeah.
We were seeing the same try against the Sharks last year. So that kind of flat pass there works many times. Garbisi was Martin when he scored in that way, and then great Ruzza for the Brex try, but we play on shape and on skills, because Capozzo put us on the positive.
Yeah. Like what I'll say as well, just to confirm, I just pulled up the the stat. Sorry, it was 27 offloads, and
27.
only England 29 in 2001 against us again have done
Of
more.
course.
So the offloads for me, I think is something that's important. Obviously, Otto, I know we've got loads of people in the chat that we probably need to go through.
Yeah,
and
I will tell you that we just did 4 offloads in this game, 0 against Wales and 2 against Scotland in 2024, and then a lot of other much more against France. Mike, 2 years ago, no, last year, 13 offload by Italy. Yes.
Last year, where we almost beat them last year. Interesting that.
Yeah. They try against Wales too. That the pass, and then let's see, line out works until a conference.
So I'm laughing. Have you seen Robbie's message near the top?
No, let me go see. Oh,
I can put it up. There you go.
Here we go. My God, this is another thing. Guys, let us know what you think. Where is going Mr. Bortolami next year?
We'll talk about it at the latter end, because I can see a lot of comments in the chat asking about it. We're basically splitting this into 2. We're doing the review, and then we're going to talk about that. But yeah, but just a funny one there.
Also this. Then we had let's see how many. Of course, Pamida also for Bortolami. We're gonna go there, but we have no tackle technique against their offload, which occur even behind the gain line. Yes, they were so Kakor. If you rewatch the game, look from the minute 17, 18 when came on Spagnolo. Look at Spagnolo. Look what they do around Spagnolo, how they push them out, how they clean around the racks. Really, really well done by France. Sadly. What else? Last year defense coach was Goosen. Yes, was Goosen, and the head coach was Quesada. Okay, no jokes around here, please. No jokes about this. Come on.
Come on. Yeah. Just jumping back into the game for a second, right? There was one thing. Now that we've got up on the comments, there was one thing that I did notice, and I messaged you, Otto, and it's something that you do a lot in rugby league, right? Where if you identify a player who's either weak in defence or a player that you don't want on the pitch, you try and take minutes out of his legs. It's called a bully set, right? And the last try that they scored on the first half against. When they run through, the fullback runs through, I think it's Menoncello, and I can't remember. I think it's Garbisi as well, right?
The last one.
Yeah. That if you look at the phases, Menoncello is consecutively doing 4 tackles, and they're passing back inside to go down his channel at the end, and obviously they do it twice in 4 phases. The first one, obviously, he manages to get it, but on the last one, he's clearly a little bit fucked, right? And straight through. So it's going to be interesting to see if, you know, players are going to try and identify like our defensive players just to try and get them off the pitch, because maybe their expectation is that the players who are on the bench might not be as high sort of rugby IQ, and then they'll start, you know, punishing us in the last 20 like we saw. So what are your thoughts on that, Otto?
I'm thinking for the next game, and that is gonna be where they're gonna come, because think about also the Scotland game, because we cannot talk about the Wales game, because it was so different, right? The condition, the style to play for both teams. So I'm going with that. Do you remember the Vella caught line break when he picked the ball? Runs around. We're gonna meet Mitchell. We're gonna have James Gibson Park coming for those mismatch, those spaces with player running into the spaces. With Ireland is gonna be hard. With England is gonna be different, because I'm really worried always of that passing style of Ireland when they come with the pod, all the variation they can create in a game that they want to win large, let's say, because they want to do big and then last. But with England, they're going to put a lot of physicality there, and Mitchell, he scored against us last year, and we know what they can do around, and we have to be really quick in that area, because we struggle all with Cannone, Spagnolo, Lamaro, all the players moving. We were
second best at breakdown, weren't we? We were just second best. Yeah. And there's a couple of comments that I do want to sort of highlight. Right, the first one, Kakul always says we should look at other things other teams are doing in attack and we don't do. Yes, that's true, but also, like, you have to make do with what you've got, right? And we have a USP, like England might have a USP with like how big and athletic the players are. Ours are fast and agile. So then, like, you build a style around a team. I think the closest team that we can maybe draw parallels to Ireland, right? That's what we should look to be, right? Like, because they don't have massive players like France or like England, and they don't really play a power game, but they play, like Otto said, within a structure, and they're really good at it and they're really efficient at it. So that's what we should aspire to be like, right? That's what we should look to be like. I think, you know, we're never going to be able to do what South Africa do, as an example. But that said, set piece, like Otto said, good. Love the fact that, you know, we held our own against a massive French pack who dominate vast majority of the tier 1 nations. Good. Line out, good. Like, that's something that we were pulling our hair out about last year, Otto, about our line out success. Good. Like, we saw, like, if that's a proportion of the game, the fundamentals that we're doing right. Next thing is, okay, how do we improve our attack? How do we get to the next level? And I think that's where we're at. As much as people are upset about this game, and we have a right to be upset, the boys are there. Like, it's now the next step. It's okay, how do we make that next step? And Otto, like, I know if you had the answer, you'd be a millionaire now because you'd sell it to the federation. But in your opinion, how do we make that next step? What do we need to do?
You have to be really, really well trained, and you don't have to overplay before this time of the year. If it's possible, completely. That for me, it's really important in this area. And then, of course, you have to work hard in the gym, but then you have to work faster with the reaction and your mind. You have to know where to go. You have to go. You have to going over your limit. You have to try to work really, really hard. Even like we talk about Seb Negri having that injury and playing that game against England last year. It's something that you want to do that one more. Every time you have to try one more, and these areas that where is Caccolo, say we have to try to drive for more, pick and go, playing for rack fringer. In the moment that we're gonna match physicality with intensity, because we need intensity, and the physicality depending by the players we have too, right? Those kilos that helps you. But
the kilos
maybe
do
we're
help.
gonna go. Yeah, because we play around the rack fringes in the 22, and we lost the ball with the first entry in the 22 from line out.
Yeah.
So we have to do that work there to bring, because also something that Quesada said in the last weeks before, and and Lamaro too. We play from. We are not a team that can play in the 22 because we cannot match that intensity, those kilos, that weight.
Yeah.
In this game, we were able to score from two set piece where you have players stuck all together, so you have space to attack, to create and manipulate defense, and from one quick ball that we had using a shape in attack, because it was a 3-1 Crowley style. It was really Crowley. We were commenting that, right? Like, hey, who brought back Crowley? Because we saw a couple of movements like that we missed in the last weeks. So
The exit in the 22, the first
and then
exit.
the X with Trula, with the roots and breaks. That line break from Trula came from another good set piece from far away. So,
yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I think actually one thing you like, I really do agree, like, with everything you said, but one thing in particular is the fact that, first of all, we need to start thinking more, right? But we have the opportunity, and maybe it's something that we've identified with our set piece now, to create that space. And I was shocked when we called the scrum. And actually, if you watch it back, it wasn't Lamaro that calls the scrum. There's Nicotera, that he just goes straight up scrum, right? So clearly we've identified that as a means for us to score tries. And obviously Garbisi goes in and scores off the back of it. So I wonder if now we're going to start seeing more and more of that from us, right? Backing our scrum to try and make space, and then because we have pace, we're going to use our agility more on the outside. In the 22, I mean, specifically, just to your point. So, hey, interesting discourse that.
What's your thoughts about the Odge? Because
Yeah, I can see a lot of people
comments
upset.
here. Federico, everybody bringing back Gusen. That, guys, I remember the last Six Nations. You remember the other ones too.
Yeah, so for me, I think that's the point, Otto. That's the point. I think Goosen was, we had the opportunity to speak to him a couple of times. A wonderful man, loved his rugby, very passionate about Italian rugby, great man, right? Hodges deserves that opportunity, right? Like, why are we talking after having someone brand new in a role? What are we doing then, suggesting that he needs to go? Guys, come on, like, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater here. Like, there was some good stuff, and there's been some great stuff from us, right? From when he's come in. And if you look at all of and if you listen to all of the pre-match stuff, they always talk about our defense. Look at our dominant tackles. Like, we're starting to be seen as this aggressive, powerful team in defense. Sometimes just having that look, that viewpoint, that perception is good for us, right, as well. So yeah, there's stuff that needs work. Like I said from the start, obviously, we got killed by our offloads, and we need to adapt. Some of that's the coaches, some of that's the players, right, and some of it's everything in between. But let's give the man time, right? Like, we've committed to him. He deserves his time. And listen, like, it's one game. That's it. Like, it was one game against one of the best teams in the world, who were hurting. They're on form. We saw what they did against England 2 years ago. When France are good, they are good. Okay, and that's it. That's my opinion on it. Anyway.
Fair enough. Andy, Garbisi. So let's talk about Garbisi. What was his game?
For me,
he kicked, he defend.
Yeah, I thought he was good. I thought he was good. The only problem for me was how much he was forced to defend, and how, especially when he's covering, ineffectual he was. But I felt like that was like a forced thing, because, like you said, we were narrow a lot of the time. He was running across, but in attack, I thought he was good. He made some good decisions. I really like him. I think he's just a traditional, non-flashy test rugby player, like test rugby fly half. I think that's my opinion on him anyway.
In 2 weeks, England with Finn Smith, best tackler of last game for England. Crazy. Amazing, fantastic player. What do you expect from Quesada? Changes or sticking with the team? Something that he sometimes does. Sorry for my cats if you hear my cat.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So for me, I think we're probably going to see Menoncello on the wing. I don't know who that brings in at centre though, Otto. So this is a question for you. Do you think we're going to see Bertaccini? Do you think we're going to see Zanon? Who are we going to see in the centre if that is the case? Because obviously Menoncello last year against England, and I was at the stadium, was very good. And had Elliot Daly not tripped him up, I think he's probably running in that try. What are your thoughts on the back line in particular, Otto? Or do you think Gallagher comes in?
As Gallagher called by Phantom can be an option. To be honest, we didn't talk about Jesse. I don't think he had that bad game as it seems at the first impression. I think was better. He covered well in 2-3 occasions, taking behind. I know when you have 3 players coming in your 5 meters line, it's hard to take a decision when they are coming fast, because the first line break there wasn't the try at the end, because it was forward pass was a situation that I try to understand who has to work better there between Jesse and Menoncello coming from the inside. But anyway, maybe he wants to bring
just the defense though, Otto. Like there was, I think it was around the 60th minute mark where Brex manages to commit 2 defenders and he does the no look and it's overrun. Jesse if Jesse was in the zebra shirt there, he hits that perfectly and they score that try. So this was round about the 40 yard mark. We back Jesse's pace, right? We know how electric he is. We know how aggressive, like he can carry. He packs a punch for a small man, right? How do you time that perfectly? Boom! We know we've given him like probably 3 or 4 yards of space and a couple of seconds of time. He's running there, and he's probably running around the fullback, and he scores that try. Little things like that, or the 73rd minute, where he kicks. If he kicked that again. If he kicked it again, Otto, he was gone. Like so little things like that, and that's confidence, right? And we need to nurture these players. So I don't think we crucify a player. I don't think we put blame on a player. We're not that country. We're not that podcast. We never do that. I think, for me, and this is just my opinion, we look at England. We look at the threats that they have, and we look at who we have on the wing. Do you think Jesse is the right person for those threats on the wing? That's my question to you. We're looking at Freeman, who's a massive man. We've got Slightholme, who's a powerful runner. Do you think Jesse?
No, you need a different kind of wing. Freeman,
we need a different wing, right?
But I think so. I'm happy with the decision if Menoncello moves on the wing. But for me, if we put Gallagher on the wing, that we've seen play many games now with Benetton, because he played 3 to 5 games, I think, as a wing. I'm okay with that. But I'm wondering if we're gonna go with Capozzo 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have Trulla, Jesse.
Trulla on the right wing.
So for me, right, Otto, it's just horses for courses. You know, I always say this, and everyone in the chat will always know. I bleat until the cows come home about this. Always, yes, right?
So I agree with Phantom.
Yeah. So for me, I think horses for courses. If we find we like against England, where they have big, powerful running backs, we need to make sure that we have someone equally in stature to subdue them. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Gallagher, long time in the Premiership, knows those players. Probably can do a job. Trulla, we know what Trulla can bring. But I think for me, it's horses for courses. If we're talking, Jesse against Mac Hansen as an example, cool. I wouldn't say no to that. Mac Hanson's obviously a really powerful player as well, but cool. Like that's someone where he backs people on pace and he's agile and he's good in the air. Cool. Like Jersey's a good matchup for that. But then if we're looking at, I look at Freeman, was he 6'5"? Like in the air against Jersey, he's going to bundle him over. There's things like that which I always think about when we're talking about selection. So yeah, it's just horses for courses.
So I think Monty will not come back from injury yet. I'm not sure, but I think he's out. Federico, that is saying that. Of course, this is the situation if we leave Menochello as a center. In case he's move on the wing, on one of those wings, we're gonna have Zanon Bertaccini, but also Marin, Mike.
Ah, yes.
So
I would love to see Marin play this game.
So, yes.
I would love on the wing. I would love to see him play this game. Kicking
Marin on the wing, right.
On the wing, I would love to see him play. He would be so good there. Or Vincent on the wing. I'm joking. Let's just as we were saying, we don't really test in the Six Nations. Fuck it, let's put Vincent on the wing. Let's see what he can do.
Guys, what are your changes into this game, into this team? Because I hear Caccolo not happy with some players. Sian putting Negri coming from the bench in the second half. So what do you think against England? You're 15. We have time, of course. And Idzagor on the wing. Idzagor was at the carnival the other day during the weekend. You see Fekitoa with all the Venetian masks. Fantastic.
Loves it.
Fantastic. Let me throw something to my cats because they are fighting.
Yeah, no worries. Whilst you're doing that, I'm going to quickly read a couple of the chat. So yeah, so I think what would be interesting for me is seeing someone like Negri. Let's hope that he's fit. Be good to see him obviously either start or on the bench. I do think having someone like that against England where you have to punch holes, because again, we can't afford not to have someone who can give us front football against England, right? I think we're probably going to see him start. I almost feel like as default, Seba needs to be in the team. Like he just needs to be, because he brings. And actually, one thing I wanted to highlight, and I noticed it both games, Sebo's gotten really good with the kick chases. I don't know if you noticed that. I know he got really unlucky with like milliseconds there.
He almost did the same like against Wales.
Yeah, mate. He but a few times, like he did it 2 or 3 times in the game at the weekend. He's really good at that. Like he's not going to compete for the ball, but he's going to let him know that he's there, which I love. Like we need more of that. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, I would like to see more of Vincent. He's been standout at frankly quite a poor Exeter this season. He's been there always like one of the best players of the team. And this me being objective, like I've got a lot of friends who are Exeter fans that always say, thank God we have Vincent, like he's that good. So for me, I think, it's one of those where I'd like to see a little bit more about him, more of him, to see sort of, what he can do, maybe start a match. I don't think, and again, he knows these players. He plays against them week in, week out, and he's normally one of the better players on the pitch week in, week out. Let him do what he can do at the Premiership on international stage. See what he can bring.
Couple of calls for Licata from the chat. From what I see here,
I wouldn't be mad.
Okay.
What are your thoughts? Like, do you think for who?
I don't know if it's because last week we were saying maybe a change, but we were talking about how good was Cannone, being also man of the match. But Licata had a great game this week. It didn't happen, so let's see this week how Licata play, and then we can talk about like are we gonna play the best on form player or the one that works better with the team, because at the moment Licata doesn't seem to be around the project of Quesada. So maybe it's a mistake for now, but it's good to have a player on form like that.
Guys, what are your thoughts on the whole Licada
Hey, maybe
situation?
in the game that went in the way we've seen against France, maybe Stabile was a really cool player to have in that moment of the game.
You know what?
against
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
if he had to play in the same way he played against last game,
Yeah. Mate, there's space for him. There is space for him. And and again, it'd have to be at 7, right? And that's the issue because Zuliani is a out and out poacher. Lamaro obviously gives more in attack than what else we have, right? But there is space there. We'll see where there's space, but he's brilliant. It's one of those where I think
you know what? During the game, I was thinking maybe Fabretto was coming in a little bit earlier in this game, and I didn't see enough of Fabretto.
I think it was forced though, Otto, because Seba had to come off for the blood injury, right? And I think that maybe messed up a little bit. Maybe it was the plan to bring him on a little bit earlier. But to your point, right? Cannone has been one of our best players, right? Of at least the first 2 games, right? Say what you want. I don't think you can sort of blame him too much about the last game. The reason I'm calling Vincent is because he knows these players, and I do think that makes a massive impact, right? Like we saw, Varney with the Welsh last year as an example, right? Like we saw what it can do, especially when you have a connection with that team or the team that you're playing against. Vincent knows these players, and like Slade as an example, plays with him week in, week out as an example, right? So he's gonna. There's more for him, right? Emotionally as well as So I don't know. It's always horses for courses for me. I could, it's always opinion at the end of the day. But I would love to see him get some game time and maybe start this game. Maybe Cannone against tired legs is a good idea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I'm thinking. I'm still. Yeah, I agree with you. But I'm still thinking also when is gonna be Licada's moment, right? It's gonna be in South Africa this summer. It's gonna be. It was supposed to be Tonga, Samoa.
I've got to be honest with you. I think he's an exceptional player, and I thought he was going to be like everyone else in our movement. I thought he was going to be the next Italian captain before Lamaro, right? That's what he was touted as. He's from a place where rugby's not played too often, so it would have been really good to have someone like him as an Italian captain. However, look at who's underneath him right now. And look at the players that we should be nurturing in the summer as well, right? So he's and again, I haven't checked. I think he's 27, 28 now. So he's got one cycle left in him, right? He's got one cycle left in him. Odiasi, are we forgetting about these under 20 stars that we have?
It's 28, Mike.
28. Okay, so he's probably at best, right? Let's be generous. He has the upcoming World Cup and the following World Cup. Odias is 21 years old, 22 years old. Probably get. Yeah. So my point is, right, we've got an opportunity here to either look at the next cycle and say, yeah, we're going to go for it. That's it, right? If he's playing well, good. Let's get him in the summer. Let's see what he can do. Cool. I agree with you. But if it's just okay, well, we're trying to grow players for the next World Cup or grow players for the next cycle. For me, he shouldn't be in the conversation. If he's specifically for the next World Cup, cool, let's get him in. That's my view anyway. Because, like I said, Stavile and all of these other players, they could be there.
A lot to say in the chat, so guys, I'm not gonna highlight everything now, but I see a lot of people from X. Move on YouTube, subscribe to the channel so you can read all the stuff going on here.
Guys, whilst you get quiet second here, just give us a like, and if you're not subscribed, give us a quick subscription. It helps.
Come on,
massive.
Yone's team loaded with experienced player. For an experienced player, yes, Mafi. just think to one, Steve Murphy there talking about Odiase, Ceccarelli going to be old, talking about the tight head probes, big stuff coming.
Stavila's 27. Interesting.
27. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He played 7 too when he was young.
You can see that. He's like he's just an all-court player, isn't he? He's very well-rounded. You can see that.
And yes, it's he can be Italian as his was Prisciantelli, because he has Italian heritage. He can be. There are a couple of interviews when he arrived to Italy, like actually on the Zebra website. Like,
not a player that we've spoken about too much. Prisciantelli,
yes. In a game like this, also Prisciantelli will be handy.
Yeah, he would have done a good job there, wouldn't he? Mate, I'm actually quite excited. Fingers crossed, right? Listen, if he wants to play for Argentina, all the best for him. Obviously, he's Argentinian by birth, but if he would love, we would love to have him, right? Let's just.
Vuoi bene alla nonna.
Yeah. You don't want to upset. You don't want to upset your grandma, mate. Let's. I'll send him a hamper, right? I'll send him a hamper with like some. Not bribes, right? Not bribes, but a bit of chocolate and stuff. Prisciantelli, if you want to be Italian, mate, we'll take you.
Mike, let's move to a big family that is moving. A young player, young coach at the end is leaving his house. It's been his house for years. That talking about Bortolami at Benetton. Le strade si dividono. They move next year, 1 year earlier than supposed. I wasn't expecting a news like this,
mate.
Out
of nowhere, especially after last win. Out of nowhere, mate. So speculation, right? Let's explain. This is all speculation.
Let me create a banner. Speculation, big one.
It's like a what's it called? A warning. Speculation. For me, I think it's quite an interesting one where he's clearly been so integral to this Benetton for so long, and actually now it's going to be interesting to see if he's moving on his terms, i.e. there's an opportunity for him to go somewhere where he may want to go in the not too distant future, or if it's something, because this was on mutual terms. His contract for reference, guys, was in for 2026, but it's ending at the end of the season. So for me, that signifies that he probably does have something lined up. That's just my feeling here, but it's a feeling. It's not a fact,
I think so. That or something really big happened behind in the office. Some meetings went not in a positive way, and you know what? It's better if we ended up earlier. Let's announce it so I can start look around, or just what? I'm gonna take 1 year to think where I can go, what is gonna change in a year. But I stick more with your idea. Yes, something. But where, Mike?
You know what, Otto? Imagine, Otto. Imagine. I just want to say, I don't even need to say it. I'm just going to say to you, imagine the story. Let's open it. A young Italian man, he goes abroad as a player. He starts playing at a very well-respected Southwest club. He cuts his teeth, he works his arse off, he becomes captain. He then goes back to Italy at the end of his career after being a very successful, well-loved captain in the Premiership. Cuts his teeth as a coach, just to return home. He returns home in 2020, at the end of 2025, early 2026 season. Otto, the story.
Home.
Return home. Yeah.
Returning
what are your
home.
thoughts? Would you?
No, thank you.
No, that's all right. Sorry.
No, thank you. It's not the moment.
No, he's listen. For me, I think whatever your feelings are about Bortolami, he was a young coach, he was thrown in, and frankly, I thought he did really, really well. Obviously, he got the opportunity to spend money, and maybe that was part of the issue, right? He was a player that improved players. You look at Gallo, you look at Albornoz, you look at Menoncello, you look at Brex, you look at the players that he had and he improved. Brilliant. As soon as you're expected to spend money, I think that adds pressure to you in any sport, right? Rugby's not, in football and rugby. As soon as you start spending money, that's putting pressure on you. Had he just had what he had and improved them at the rate that he improved them, and clearly there is improvement. I look at Ferrari as an example, Nicotera, Ruzza, Nicolo Cannone, Lorenzo Cannone, all of these players who had potential, he brought that out of them, or at least was part of the. So he is a very good coach, and I think he's going to be lucky anywhere. But I don't think he's a coach that can go into a club and build. I think he's a club. He's a coach that goes into a club and he gets the best out of what's already there. That's my opinion anyway.
Do you think he's gonna move into a national team or in a club?
I don't think I don't think national team would be a good move for him right now. Like unless he's maybe looking at one of the tier 2 nations, because right now Wales is available and Australia's available. Argentina's pretty much cemented. I suppose there could be speculation about Scotland, but they'd go for Franco Smith without
So what about line-out coach for Italy?
I'm going to ask you a question, right? Oh, no. It's a good question. I'll ask you, but I have to answer with a question. What for?
Exactly. If you were going to say yes, I was going to ask you why. Do we need a line-out coach? I don't think we need a line-out coach.
No. Like, for me, right? Like, what for? So for me, he's clearly a very talented coach. Like for me, I think he would be the perfect person to go in and be like a high performance director. Like be, what Conor O'Shea is to us.
Yeah,
I think he's that sort of coach for me anyway, because clearly he's been around good enough coaches. He worked with Guzzi, he worked with Marzi, he's worked with all of these like players. He's got rich knowledge of the game. He's a perfect person that I would say coach other coaches. You improve our movement from underneath. So I would love to see him work with like Aboud and like the age grades and be responsible for the elite pathway. Like that would be a really good role for him. But I don't see him I just don't, unless again, like there's not really any benefit for him to go as a line-out coach. So no, I don't think he'd be a line-out coach for us.
So we have to look deep and dig into some Pro D2 teams, maybe there is something.
It's not a bad shout. It's not a bad shout. Yeah, it's not a bad shout.
Think about if Joel Abd leave the position at Oyonnax next year to stay with England full time.
That's not a bad shout. And they've got a good relationship.
Throwing in the speculation time.
You know what? As far as speculation goes, Otto, not a bad one, mate.
No, just throwing there. But let's see. What's next for Benetton, Mike?
Coach-wise, I think again we should add some.
Crazy to think, because you're reaching the peak of some players. You have some players maybe leaving at the end of the season.
See, I wonder how much that has to do with it, Otto.
That's another thing. Yes, I agree with you. That for me is something.
So here's a question for you then, right? We know that there's some very good players, very good coaches available at the moment. Like some who have recently left, some that are potentially leaving, rumors, it's particularly in the French top 14. We know Cheika's going. We know Dave Rennie I know who your preference is, right, from the get-go, right? I know who you're going to say. But if you had to list those players like Guzzi, Lancaster,
Lancaster is free.
Yep. And also Thingy's reported to be leaving as well. So Guzzi, Gustard, who was the assistant coach at Benetton, right? And then obviously Checker, and then you look at Dave Rennie, Kieran Crowley. I think Kian mentioned it in our chat, right? John Coe.
He had to drink the wine in Treviso.
Yeah, mate. He would turn up pissed. I'm calling that. If you had to rank them, like, who would be your favorite out of the ones I've just explained? Like Checker top, obviously for you, but like who else? Like if you had to list them.
Michael Checker, Eddie Jones.
That's what he's doing. That's what he was doing over here.
They're friends, you know. I don't know how much he wants, but that is also a name just because he knows Treviso structures already. He's been there with the Japan team. He used to coach Hongara, so there is still this connection. Can be a name. Tough. Maybe too expensive. But Chega is a kind of manager that probably can go really well, get really along with Pavanello, I think. They can work really good.
You know what's interesting? I know, like, I don't know for a fact, but like, if you watch the punditry that he did when Kieran Crowley was under pressure, someone asked him, he's like, "Oh, what would you do with this Italian?" He's like, I'd love to coach this Italian team, like, because
to be in Padua.
Yeah, he speaks it fluently as well. Like, he speaks the lingo fluently. He has his businesses in Milan as well.
Jeans. Let's bring all the fashion after Umaga and what he sell? Jeans. He has something with fashion.
Yeah, so he does like he works with like fashion brands and stuff. Like, so the point is, right, like, mate, like it's not the worst idea, right? But I will say,
Mike, another
right,
question about this, because here we have, what about Marcato or Pavan? Okay, do you think there is also like
fighting
the family, they want to spend less money next year, so that means that Benetton gonna have less money, so you have to go cheap also for a new coach? Oh, the
it makes
speculation.
sense. No speculation. It makes sense because obviously players are leaving and they're high ticket players that could be earning a lot more abroad, which means that if we're talking for the if we're talking specifically for the wage bill, or like maybe they have contracts which are due, and like the contracts negotiations aren't going as well as they might want, then potentially they're putting their hands up to leave, and it could be because of money. It could also be because they want to invest in different things instead of spending, and I'm throwing a number out there and I'm not going to talk about a player, but we know there's a player that, in fact, actually I could say it this way, but like Liner's earning double what he earned at Quins, right? As an example, maybe they spend more on a coach. Maybe that's the plan. Maybe they want to get a very high ticket coach, very expensive coach in, and spend slightly less on players. Maybe that's the plan. I obviously this is all speculation, but I could see that. They want results, right?
They want results. Think if they're gonna turn the season and they're gonna qualify really well into the URC, and then Bortolami will live in this situation.
What do you mean? Bortolami is going to win the URC, mate.
Think about like everything change. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna happen at all because too many things has to go in a certain way.
Mate, he's winning the Champions Cup and he's winning the URC. Mate, imagine if that happens.
I'm gonna make my beard green if it happens.
I'll keep you to that, Otto. I'll keep you to that.
Or I'm gonna become a unicorn.
Yeah.
I can become
to be fair, mate, I can see the horn growing now. So, in fact, I see two. Is that what unicorns have?
If this season turn in a way. Last speculation about. Do you think, actually, two speculations. First, you think there are issues with with some players in the locker room, so he lost the group too. And you think can succeed to Quesada after the World Cup, or something's gonna change before the World Cup, even if we don't want to? Because we're in
Bortolami.
spending review, we have to spend less, so maybe it's too heavy. And maybe at the end of the November, maybe Quesada can go. And in 2026, 2 years before the World Cup, you present 1 year and a half. You present Bortolami as a head coach because it's
Can I be honest
cheaper.
with you?
Hey, I'm putting speculation, guys. Doesn't mean that I want to happen, but
Yeah.
scenario.
I'm going to be honest with you, right? Obviously, I think we always say this, right? Always say this. Chopping and changing coaches at national team is an absolute travesty. We do it far too often, right? That's one thing that I'm saying. And this is fantasy, right? One thing. Let's move that to the side. But Bortolami, as I said, clearly is a player, is a coach that gets the most out of players, right? Whether he's someone who would be head coach or whether he's someone who'd be a good assistant coach for the national team, because he's not paying, he's not he's not bringing players in for money. They're making a decision about players and then they can get the most out of it. Cool. That works out really nice. But Quesada needs to stay for me. Like I said, there's lessons learned for him. He's a young international coach. I know he's a very experienced coach, but he's a fantastic coach.
First time coaching a national team, and I think until now we cannot be so mad if we lose for 73, 59, 49 points gap. That sounds a little bit better than 70.
But the point is, right, like last week was a lesson for him as well as the coaches. And actually what he said in the post-match like made me very happy, that he said that this hurt and it should hurt, and it should hurt everyone, should hurt every single person that works with the Italian rugby team. He wants them to remember that hurt. That for me is like a really like positive, impactful thing, because that means he's gonna take this result with him, and it's not going to be brushed under the carpet. Like one thing that I think we got a little bit upset about with some of the results in the World Cup was, we're just going to not look at the result, we're just going to burn it, that's not good. He wants to remember this, and he wants us to improve from it. So for me, I'm really happy with that.
The last speculation, Mike, Brunello to Benetton next year. Let me put the banner. Hold on. Speculation time. I'm gonna make a jingle about this for the next.
That'd be heartbreaking for Zebra. No.
And then who is gonna go to Zebra? Another question mark there. Troncon, Jesus, no. I want a different attacking coach for Benetton.
That's so funny.
Where is Lupo? Our dear Lupo is sleeping. No.
Yeah. He's died of an aneurysm after that comment.
Dolcetto for the attack. So only him.
Yeah, Mercado always comes up.
Mercado is really connected to Treviso. He's always around. You can see him in the bench sometimes too. He works for the academy there in Treviso.
Yeah,
derby alcolico, Brunello, Dolcetto, D'Alba.
But for me, I think let Brunello cook. Let's see where the problem for me, and I was thinking about this earlier before we jumped on the pod. Like, where does Brunello go? Like, if he has a really successful time at Zebra, he's there for a couple of seasons, they become a mid-table team with little resource. Where would you put him next? Because for me, like, he doesn't speak English, right? So he can't go to any of the national team. I don't know how good his French is, but do you think he then goes to head coach for national team? Do you think he goes into the national team as an assistant coach? Where would you put him then?
It's hard. I think he can work after this experience with Zebra. Maybe it's gonna be 2 years, 3 years. Maybe also a position in a federation to coordinate the youngsters can be interesting, depending how much he wants to stay in the field. In the
What do you think?
pitch.
Do you think? Yeah.
That's changed sometimes. You see, we had for a lot of years Di Giandomenico, great coach, one of the best we had. He's not coaching after all this year with the women's rugby. But you know what? No, he works. He do a lot of job for Abu. He will do a lot of job in that direction too, because they were showing him Abu all the work.
Good. We need good coaches, and that's something, Otto. Like, obviously, you're out of the country. You're a good coach. Like, we've got Leo out of the country, who's an exceptional coach as well. Like, we've got this talent, but a lot of it's consolidated in Italy, and that talent needs to improve, right? Like that talent in Italy, there needs to be focus. So I'm going to be interested to see, maybe what Abu,
Lodi, Marchiato, Pavan, these guys needs to push Judson, and they have to push, but they also need an opportunity, because that is something hard. And then we have also these guys out. That is going to be interesting how the things will change in Toulon.
To Benetton, interesting.
Benetton, Masi Paris.
Oh, speculation. Paris to Benetton. There we go.
You know why it's weird? Now that they're gonna take Brex, they're gonna leave to take Benetton. I don't know, right?
Yeah. Be interesting. Then.
Maybe they just do it because they're gonna rebuild. They know what they're gonna put there. They're gonna work better with some players coming back. They're gonna change Odogu in the center. Who knows? Menoncello is gonna be an all-around player. Stuff like that. Let's see. But I think, Mike, this is everything for the speculation time, because we have a week of games coming.
Got lots to talk about, don't we? So
Connacht, Treviso,
and
Zebra Dragons. So 2 games that we're gonna be here commenting on Monday. Again.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Guys that are watching us on YouTube, or guys that are on X, please do give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe, because we are close to our goal. We would like to hit it by the end of the year. So please help us do that. But
yes.
Otto, are we wrapping up here?
Yes, we have to. It's an hour 7 minutes in a lot of speculation, too much speculation. Usually we are more in. This is at Fratelli, the rugby in that way. Yeah, speculation. Yeah, next week, jingle, more speculation.
I love it.
Get ready. I'm gonna work now on the jingle for you. But thanks everyone, because we had Phantom, Federico, Kian, Caccolo, Paolo, Federico, etc. They test and stay with us tonight on a Tuesday night. So Mike, see you soon. Forza Zebre, Forza Leoni, Forza Treviso. See you next week.
Fratelli, the rugby podcast. The Italian rugby podcast. Fratelli, the rugby podcast. The Italian rugby podcast. The Italian rugby podcast. The Italian rugby podcast.